Hi, and welcome to Entry Text tutorial video on Focal Point and Focal Point Mobile. Timestamps and general notes can be found in the description below. First thing we're going to do is open up the Focal Point application, and we're going to enter in our credentials. Alright, so now we'll be presented with a main UI of Focal Point. We're going to start from left to right, so we'll go to Transaction Monitor first. This is where all transactions, whether they be a system updates made by a user, credential updates made by users, people using their credentials, or Focal Point Mobile, or really anything with the system. So it'll tell you when a system goes down, and like right here, admin logged on at 4:39 at 9:01. All right. So when we first log in, we'll see that it shows exactly when we log in and nothing else. To bring back everything that has happened before, we're going to need to press the pause and resume button. This will load back everything that happens before, and you can just scroll through, and this isn't a very old system, so this is as far as it goes, but you can pretty much scroll through the entire history of the system. There are better ways to do this, but we'll go to that later. So now that we're in the system here, in the transaction runner with everything loaded, we're going to start over here at the zone name. You don't really need to worry about this. This is just everything should say default or blank, it's whatever. The controller is kind of useful. It tells you which controller. So if you have a large multiple controller building, sometimes it'll be controller 1 or building 1, controller 1, that sort of thing. Next is going to be location. This is the most important part, really. This will tell you what door was accessed. So if we have a door labeled stairwell level 3 section C, it'll tell us right here in the location. Next is going to be the name. This tells you who did whatever is on the transaction monitor. So if I open at the door, it'll show, we can actually go through here, right here. It'll show Peyton Foster. And then the next is encoded. This is the encoded number of whatever was used to open or grant access to that door. So here was 12201, and other times it'll be different. Next is the description. So here I try to use my credential to open a door, but it says my card was not in the controller. So I did not get an access granted, like right here. This will be what happens when they do get access granted. Next is going to be the time. This will tell you exactly when that happened. Sometimes there can be 1 or 2 seconds delay, but really it's never that long. And lastly is the date, and that's just the day of when that happened. Alrighty, now that we have finished with the transaction monitor, we can now go to the right, and we're going to skip over alarms as it's something that we do not use. And we're going to go to cardholders. But before we go to cardholders, we have to think about how fobs work. Right now, we have a fob next to me, and it has an encoded number and it has a facility code assigned to it. Since this is a brand new system, we do not have any facility codes. Normally, we'll add a facility code in and then program our fobs to test things, but this isn't the case here. So we need to add a facility code. So how we do that is we're going to need to navigate to the device manager. We need to head over into the card format management tab. And here we're going to press add. This will then open the file explorer, and we pretty much always put this on the desktop, but if not, it'd be in the documents folder. So we're going to go into the desktop, the FC folder, double click, and this will open up a list of all of the facility codes that you can import into Focal Point. So we have 1 through 255, and I know that the fob here is facility code 15. So I'm going to go down and find facility code 15, and anything after the underscore, that's what you're looking for. So this one's 14, 15, 16, 17. All this in the front is just identifying what it is. So we're going to load in facility code 15, okay? And another common one that we use is facility code 1. And this is mostly for the HID mobile credentials. All right, so we've got 1 and 15 facility codes in the system now. Now we can head over to cardholders, and we can make a card holder. Now, the cardholders tab is where all of the cardholders are, all of your users, whether they be for physical fobs or your assignments for your HID mobile credentials. You'll make your HID mobile credentials in the actual portal manager, and then add in that fob, that mobile fob into here. Okay, so when we start this up, the left side here, this will be the list of existing cardholders. It'll be completely blank. We can press search, and if this was a system that actually had cardholders in it before, we would then load up all the cardholders. But since it's brand new, there's no one we can search through. So we're going to add somebody. It is always a good idea to press the add button first, as somebody can leave residue behind and let's say have their access group, have a pin, or just something in here that you weren't aware of that is linked to somebody else's cardholder that will then get overwritten and will mess things up. It's always just the best idea to press add first, and then changes to the cardholder you have will be lost. Press OK. All right, so we're going to make a test user. So we need a first name, we can skip the middle name, and we need a last name. The next thing we need is the encoder number of the fob. So the one I have here is 03420, and you do not need a printed number, but sometimes you'll need a pin, and you'll need pins if you have keypads on the property and you're assigning each user a pin number. So for me, we'll add 1, 2, 3, 4. And now for the card format, I can select between 1 and 15. This card, as I've said, is facility code 15, and then I'll press save. All right, the card holder has been successfully saved. So now on the left side here, we'll see test test. All right, so now if I took this card and I went and scanned at a door, it will not open that door. We'll see a access group not allowed error or something very similar. And that's because access groups have not been set up yet at all. Usually this is not the case. We usually preload some access groups in, so you do not have to do this yourselves. But let's go over that now. All right, on to access groups. So before we do access groups, it's a good idea to go into our time zones and set up a time zone. Okay, usually there's a 24/7 or a pre-built time zone, but in the event that there's not, we're going to make our own. So we'll make an office hours time zone. Time zones are not necessarily in the traditional sense. This is more, when do I want a certain group to be allowed in, right? So business hours, I can make this time zone, and then I can assign residents to only be allowed into the amenities during the business hours. And that's what we're going to do. So we're going to press the add button here, and we're going to start with a name. So we're going to add in business hours. And you don't need a description, but as you'll usually use your name as the description, right? So we're going to start by selecting the day right here at the start day. We're not going to be open on Sundays. So we're going to skip Sunday and we're going to go instead to Monday. We open at 7 a.m. or 8 a.m. to whatever you want. We'll put 7 and you can select p.m. or a.m. here. You can also select the minutes if you really wanted to get specific with your time zone. So the time we open at 7 and we're going to set our closing to 5 p.m. All right, so we've got Monday 7 to 5. We're going to press the add on the left side here. That'll throw it in right here, and down at the bottom we'll see now a green zone between 7 a.m. and 5 p.m. on Monday. That is our time zone for that day. So then we can just press Tuesday here on the new start day, and it'll auto switch the stop day, and we can press add. And we can do the same thing for Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. But let's say Saturday we have a different time zone, right? Or different business hours. We're going to open a little later. So we'll open at 8, scroll down. We'll open at 8:30 a.m. and we'll close a little sooner too. We'll end at 4:30 p.m. 4:31, that'll work. And we'll press add. And so now we can see the change in those zones. And that's it. So we'll press save to make sure that all of those changes have been made and saved into the system. All right. So now that we've got our time zone, we can go into the access groups. And here is the first tab is going to be the access group definition listing, which just lists out all the different access groups you have. We're going to press the add button to add in some groups. So we're going to do group name residence and group number 1 description resident of the property. Okay, save. Again, you don't need a description, just helps demonstrate. So then we're going to go in and we're also going to do vendor 2, we're going to skip the description, and the last one we're going to do is staff 3. Okay. These don't need to be in any specific order. I just like them in the order of the least permissions to the most permissions, right? So your residents are going to have the most limited access, obviously below staff, sometimes maybe not below vendors. It really is up to you. But for us, that's the case. Next thing we're going to do is we're going to go into the group access assignments. Here, this is where we assign when a resident, a vendor, or a staff member can access a certain door. So left side here we have door 1 and door 2. So I want residents to only be able to access door 2 during business hours. And to do this, you just, oh my gosh. All right, let's close this out. Being a little funky there. So we'll open back access groups, go to group access assignments, door 1. Still kind of doing it, that's fine. All right, so door 1, we're also going to want residents to have access during business hours. Okay, vendors can have 24-hour access. Actually, it doesn't do this. I'm on a very old machine, so that might be why. All right, and so to select this, so I'm going to select a square, and then I'm going to double click. That's what opens up this choose time zone. So again, business hours, 24/7. And 24/7. So now our first group, which is right here, residents, has access to door 1 and door 2 only during business hours. I'm going to stop clicking around. Vendors have access to both doors 24/7, and staff has access to both doors 24/7. And we're going to press save. That'll save all of these. So now we can go back to our cardholders. We can navigate to the access groups, and this will be populated. So let's make a new cardholder. We can press search and we'll load back in test. So let's do, we're going to press add. Let's do test 2. All right. And we're going to give this one a code of 008676. Now, I've given this a 6-digit code. And this is, I'm making up a code, right? I don't actually have this. I just want to demonstrate something. But say you don't actually have a credential for Amazon, UPS, or things like that, and you just type in some numbers and then encode it. Well, let's make this actually here. So we've got 878676. I've got more than 5 numbers in my encoded. If I save this user, it'll give an error to the system and it'll eventually start causing problems. You never want to have more than 5 numbers in your encoded space. So we'll do 00886, pin 5555. Doesn't really matter, right? This is just a fake user. So we have given them the card format, encoded, their pin, first name, last name. But now we need to go into access groups. And here we're going to give test 2, we're going to make them a resident. So we can double click and it'll move it over, or you can single click and move it over like that. So test 2 is a resident. Okay, Cardholder has been successfully saved. And now, if we go back to test, we need to give them something. We'll give him staff. And then we'll save. So now I can go to my controller, or my reader, and I can input pin 1234, open the door, or I can scan, and it'll open. I could input 5555, and it'll open. So I'm going to do that, and we'll be back at the transaction monitor. All right, we're back, and I have scanned my card, and I've inputted the code. There was a little bit of a hiccup, and we'll go through exactly what I did later on when I actually show you how to do it. But so what we found out was that when I scanned my card, the 3420, the encoded, it worked just fine, right? But when I inputted my codes, I got unknown cards. And this is actually due to the type of reader we have. It takes a different format for the cards. That never gets really set up. It's only for specific and the one we have at the shop. So, but if it was just a regular reader keypad combo, codes would work just fine. And it would have shown us the code and would have shown us who did that and when. All right. So we're gonna go to the right. We've just finished access groups. We're not really gonna go over holidays since we don't use them. We did time zones. We're gonna skip over command center and issue command, and we're gonna head back into the device manager. This is where all of our access control devices are shown and where their statuses can be checked by the end user or by us. So, as we've seen before, we're going to start here. Sometimes it'll start out with having just the default zone shown. This is what that zone name is here at default. So we're going to press the plus button here, and it's going to show us the controllers. If we had multiple controllers, they would all be listed here, and they'd each have their own plus button next to them to bring down their menus. So this test V2000, we can see the status of both these doors. The door monitor shows us forced entry, which is, we don't have the door monitor resistors in, so that's okay. And then we also have strike, door locked, and the side, and the door names. So we're going to press the plus button to go down a little bit further, and now we can go into each of these doors. So right here, we have tamper, bat fail, AC fail, and aux relay 1, output point open. These are things that just happen, and they don't really ever get cleared. So you're never going to look in here and think, oh, there's no power to this device. There is power. Focal point just wants to show you that in the past there had been a case of no power. So you don't need to go down into here to see that. We go in further and it'll show us all of these separate things, but like I said, you don't really need to see that. So say we've got door 1 and we have door 2. We're going to change our names, right? Door 1 was assigned by us, entry tech, and you don't like the specific name, you want a more common name. So we'll do staircase door. I like staircases, especially when I can spell them. So staircase door, right? And I did that, but just double clicking on that door and it brings open its menu. And now down here at the bottom, I can see how long the door will unlock for, if you want to change that, how long it'll shunt for, which is kind of like unlock. You change these together, and the access mode. So like I was saying, this was a reader keypad combo. I have it set to card or pin. If you want to disable pins on that one, you'll go here and you'll press card only. And then if you wanted a card to be scanned and a pin, you would select card and pin. But that's kind of janky and we don't use it. All right, so we're going to go to card or pin, and pin size needs to be 4 digits for the readers we install as of now, which are the RPK40s. And that's just how that is. All right, so we renamed it. We're not going to go to anything else as we just don't mess with these, and we're going to save. That door has been successfully renamed to staircase door. And in the transaction monitor, we can press resume, and yeah, it actually won't show that we renamed it. Nice. All right, so we're going to go back into the transaction monitor, and we're going to see here that I was just having some issues with my controller, right? I got a bunch of updates, I scanned it, and it showed card not in controller, which was really confusing to me because we just added it into the controller, and things just weren't working right with this door. So what I did was I went into the device manager, I right-clicked on the controller, and I pressed provision controller. This will just basically restart the device, and it'll go through all of its programming and reboot itself, essentially. You want to be very careful when you do this, though. The detect and connect devices won't do anything, but the delete controller and clear APB data for all badges. Make sure not to press these, as it'll be very severe consequences, and just not a fun time. So we'll leave those. And we can do the same thing we did with the doors if we wanted to change this. So we'll just do regular V2000. And we can press save. And there we go. And that's pretty much it for the device manager. So we'll actually go through reprovision. It can take a second. So we'll start the provision. Provision started. And in the transaction monitor now, we'll see all of this blue text indicating what the controller is doing. So you see started reprovision, and in between this and the finished reprovision, nothing you do will go into the controller. So if I make card holders, if I change access groups, it won't work properly. So you need to hold off and just wait for it to do its thing. And we'll be back when it's finished. All right, fairly quick reprovision, wasn't bad at all. So reprovision completed, you are good to go about and use focal point as normal. And that's pretty much it. The last thing here is just going to be the device. So you will have to go to default here, and we will see the status of our controller and the IP and if it's enabled. So if it's offline, it means it's offline. If it's online, it means it's online. And during the reprovision, that status would have shown processing. And that's when you cannot change anything because it's already processing a list of commands. All right. So that's it for the device manager. The next thing we're going to take a look at is command center and issue command. All right, command center. This is where you can create commands to keep doors or gates open or closed during your certain times. Those are the time zones, right? So when we open the command center, this is, like I said, this is where we schedule things. So when I press add, I'm going to get this big menu here. I'm going to press my zone. Zone's going to be default. My device, I'm going to select which door I want. So I want the staircase door for whatever reason. We're going to skip output point, and we're going to go straight down to the time zone. So I want during business hours for the staircase door to be open. So I've got my business hours, I've got my door. Now on the right side, we can set two different things. Command when the time zone is on, and command when time zone is off. Green is on, white or gray is off. So when the time zone is on, we want this door to be unlocked. When the time zone is off, we want this door to be locked. We can also set to disable or enable card access, whatever you really want. The grant access is a single use unlock. So as soon as the time zone activates, it'll unlock and then it won't lock again. Or yeah, pretty much. So we want to use lock and unlock for any schedules. So we're going to press save. And now during business hours, whenever that happens, it'll unlock and it'll lock at the close of them. It can take 1 to 2 opening and closing of these business hours to take an effect. So if I went into the transaction monitor, it shows door locked, right? We've added the schedule command, and because our business hours are there, it locked the door. Wouldn't always trust that to work the first time. You might want to manually do it or just let it be, right? But usually it's the one after you assign it. So if I assign it in the middle of the day, when it locks, it might work, or the next morning when it unlocks, that's when the schedule really triggers and kicks off. But that's pretty much it for the command centers, the pretty basic commands. So now for the issue commands. This is where commands for your focal point mobile are made and stored. You can get to the issue command by either pressing on the issue command, or when you're in the command center, just by moving over to the issue command listing. They're both in the same kind of tabs. So we're going to create a command. We're going to press the add button. Again, we're going to go through this zone default, device, we'll do door 2. Output point, leave it blank, and command. We want to be able to grant a access. So it's like when we scan our fob, that's granting access, perfect. So we're going to save this, and now we have a issue command. All right, so I'm going to load up Focal Point Mobile on my phone. We're going to resume the transactions. I'm going to relaunch the app so you can see that when I log in, admin logged in, this will show whenever you create a Focal Point mobile user, what user logs in. So I'll log in, go to my issue commands, and I'll press issue command on door 2. Issue command grant access, access granted. If you're seeing the issue command grant access and there's nothing like access granted afterwards, I'd give the controller a reprovision. That's most likely the cause. That's going to be most likely the fix and the fastest, right? But that can happen occasionally. And that's it for the issue commands as well. It's very straightforward. You can do the same thing, keep output point none. You could also set one to just lock or unlock, but the thing is with issue commands is that when you create a command, it's available to all of your users, so you don't ever want to do lock or unlock unless you have a 2 or 3 user access base like we do here. So we'll save, and now both door 2 and staircase door can be unlocked from my phone. All right, one of the last things we're going to go over is the operators tab. This is where users for Focal Point Mobile are created and stored, and also all the users to get into Focal Point itself. So you'll see I have my admin here, and this is how I logged in. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to create a profile mobile app. This just makes creating mobile credentials easier, and we always do this for the property, so you won't need it, but just in case. So we're going to press the add button once again, and this is going to be a profile. So right here we're going to switch between operator to profile, and this will be profile mobile. We'll do profile app. Okay, well, that's new. We'll do mobile app. All right. So now what we want to do is we want to go through the permissions here, and we want to stop them from using anything but issuing a command. So I'll have to click on the plus for operators, turn off view and turn off edit. Click on the cardholders, turn off view, turn off edit. For some reason that didn't go away. Come on. Oh, fun times. All right, and we're just going to keep going through here. Access groups, time zones, All right, and now that we've got Command Center for view and issue commands only, we can then press the physical zones default, and we can press save. This will create our profile mobile app, and this is what we'll base all of our mobile users on. So now we're going to press add, and we're going to make a test person for Focal Point Mobile. So we're going to do again test for the first name, skip the middle name, test, username, test, password, test. All right, super simple. And now the most important thing about mobile users. If I went ahead and pressed the physical zones default and I press save, right, this user, this most likely resident, will have complete admin access to Focal Point and will be able to change anything they want in the system, right? They can go through like we saw in the device manager, and they can just delete out controllers or delete out card holders, open the doors, keep anything open. You absolutely need to make sure that you press copy permissions from, click profile mobile app, press copy permissions. It'll give you an okay, it'll tell you that it did it, and all the permissions here will turn red, besides Command Center, which will turn gray in the middle and green on the outside. This is an absolute necessity and is one of the most common issues we see with this. So now that we've got our test user, We can press save, and we've got a Focal Point mobile account. So we'll pick up on this on the phone. All right, so we've got our Focal Point mobile application open. We've got our server identifier plugged in. We're going to plug in our test username and our test password. We will now be shown the issue commands. We're going to click on this, and then sometimes, like here, the commands will be blank. Give it a few seconds, and if nothing pops up, press the back, open it up again, and most of the time they'll be there. And so now we can just press issue command on any one of these stores. Success, success. All right, and if that does not open the door, but in the transaction monitor you are seeing access granted, it would be a reprovision first. All right, the last thing we're going to run through is the reports. Reports is where, instead of combing through the transaction monitor, you'll be able to run a report and see exactly what you want without getting everything else. So if I wanted to find exactly when somebody, accessed the location, I'd have to go back through here and say it was on 8:01 or something, and you would just scroll, right? Well, you don't have to with reports. So say we want to find test, right? We want to find every single time test has opened a door, what door and when within the past month. We can do that. So we're going to go into the reports tab. We're going to create a new report. We're going to press next down at the bottom right. And we're going to select the report type of transactions. Press next. We're going to want their cardholder full name, their encoded, their location, and their transaction date. These four are the basics and really as much as you should need. So we're going to press next. We're now going to get this display, and the only thing we really need to worry about is the selected date range. You can also sort by, so we can just sort by the transaction date and whatnot. But we're going to change the transaction date from, by clicking on this calendar here, we're going to go back to the 1st of August to the 1st of September. So we're going to press next. And now we need to set what we're looking for. So I know the cardholder name, right? So I'm going to press cardholder full name. I need to set a criteria. So where cardholder full name is equal to, and then I'm going to select a cardholder. So test, and I can press the set criteria. And I can either add another one that has to be the same. So again, I can do transaction date. Well, actually, we already set that. So we'll do location. So location, select equal to, and the location would be like door 1 or door 2 like we have. So most of the time you're going to need the cardholder or their encoded number, right? So their encoded number, I can search exactly for my fob here, the 3420 fob, and I can press the set criteria. Now this is an AND criteria, so both of these, so it's going to look for the test name, and then it's going to also look for 3420. If either of these are wrong or not present, it won't come up. So you can change that by just doing an OR, and that'll look for both, but we know we are just looking for this. So our criteria is test from 8.1 to 9.1. We're going to press run report. It's going to take a second to generate, especially depending if it's a big report. And it's going to open this up in whatever browser you selected, or if you have an application on the computer. And we're going to get this report. So we have the cardholder full name, the encoded, the location, and the transaction date. And we can see exactly when they did their certain things, what encoded, the location, and when, right? So who, what device, what location, and when. You can either print this and save it as a PDF by doing that, or keep it open. But it is also, if we find here, the C users tech documents this, we can grab that location and go here and it'll bring it back up. That's not what we wanted. We want to go here. So we'll use text documents, transaction report 1. And there it is. So it'll automatically save this in your documents folder, and you can put this on a flash drive or send it to whoever you need to send it to. And that's pretty much it for all of Focal Point. There is another thing, which is the Focal Point mobile service, which always needs to be running on your computer. So if you ever X out of this, it will just cancel out of the service and your Focal Point mobile will no longer work. You'll have to reopen it with this application, such and so forth. But that's pretty much it.